You got Phil there somewhere?
Okay, we'll see if that works. Okay, can people see me now? So we should be good. Sorry, guys, we're having a little bit of tech issues here.
Yeah, they can't even hear. They can't even hear you. I'm guessing technical difficulties.
I'm live right now. Okay, so Janelle said she can see me. Ann can see me. Giselle can see me. Sean said he can see me.
He can hear you. Good now. Yay. Okay, I think we're good now.
Okay. Are we good?
Oh, dear.
My internet's good. Everything else is good. I don't know what's happening. Okay, good. We can all go. We're good. Woo! I love it. All right, here we go. Let me just check in with Ken, make sure we're good. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I'm going to keep singing because that makes me happy. All right. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, good. Dee can hear me. Tina can hear me. Everybody's good. All right, let's go. All right, we're back in the house. All right, so some reason there was some strange stuff happening on StreamYard, so we're ready to rock and roll. So let's start this party over. All right, so welcome everybody. I'm Trevor Wicken, founder and creator of the MS Gym. I just did a little dress rehearsal, so now we're good to go. Everything's good on YouTube. Everything's good on StreamYard. There, I'm now talking, which is good. There was some weird error things that were coming up. So let's get this going. So I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I thought we were going and we weren't. So now we are. So welcome to the Neuroprotective Exercise Secret. What we're going to be talking about today is how movement is your medicine and how movement and exercise protects your central nervous system, protects your neurologic symptom. Because when you have something like MS that's a progressive condition or neurologic condition like Lyme disease or a cerebellar dysfunction or something along those lines, according to medicine, it's all progressive, meaning it's only going to get worse. All right. So if something is constantly sliding down and constantly sliding downhill, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to stop and then we're going to have to go the other direction. So we're going to have to reverse the process. And so what movement does is it allows your brain to access new neurologic pathways in your central nervous system to work around the damage and the disruption and the miscommunication that is happening because you have a neurologic condition. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Exercise is one of the most potent and one of the most it's the biggest force that I've seen in my 20 years of working with people with neurologic conditions that has, I would say, slowed down, counteracted, and sometimes reversed a lot of the neurologic damage and a lot of the neurologic symptoms that my clients have had. Now, I'm not saying that exercise is proven to remyelinate things. However, we have seen some interesting research coming out talking about how movement and exercise has the potential and the capability to do some remyelination, or at least to start to have those demyelinated nerves connect with and talk to very, very heavily myelinated nerves so that those kind of blend together and movement and function improve. All right. So what we're going to be doing in this workshop is we're going to be going through the basic concepts of neurology, movement neurology. We're going to talk about what the components are for an efficient and an effective movement program that is neurologic based, brain based, and I'm going to kind of go over what that means. And then I'm going to show you guys exactly how we put programming together inside the MS Gym and how to actually do what's called neurologic stacking in order to elicit the greatest results possible by using your entire nervous system to improve the way that you move instead of just your muscles or just your nerves or whatever that might be. All right. All right, let's go. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So, okay. So looking at most programs here, when you look at 90% of the fitness and therapy programs across the board, and I'm saying most, I'm not saying everybody, 90% of the fitness and therapy programs out there only improve about 1/3 of your central nervous system symptoms. Slow down, Trev, right? So what that means is that you're only getting about a 33% effectiveness in most therapy and most fitness programs out there. Now, it's not necessarily that their fault. It's just the way that the industry is. There's not a lot of education out there about how to use the entire brain and the entire nervous system to improve movement. Most people are trained only to look at what is called motor output, which I will talk about in a little bit. But that is research. That is fact. That is the way it is. So most of the thing, if you guys have experienced going to a therapist, going to a trainer, and it's like, I thought this was going to work. Is this going to work? And then it doesn't work. Well, the reason why is because you're only working at a 33% effectiveness rate. What if your symptoms and what if your improvement lies in a muscular or in body systems other than your muscles and other than your joints? And that's what we're going to talk about. All right. So I like this slide. I use this slide. I love it because one of my favorite movies that I've ever watched is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. All right. And I like this movie because this American guy falls in love with this Greek girl and gets thrown into this gigantic family, this Greek family. All right. That they love being Greek. Right. And the dad loves being Greek. And he runs around with this bottle of Windex and he's spraying everything because he thinks it heals everything. And he's always lecturing people on how everything stemmed from Greek, right? All good things in life come from Greek. So food and art and culture and music, everything stems from Greek. And so I love that concept. And when I started studying neurology, I was more in depth. I was like, oh, the central nervous system is Mr. Portocalis, right? Because everything stems from Greek. Just like everything stems from the central nervous system. All right. So everything stems from the central nervous system. Maybe that's better so people can see me. I'll get back into it. So the central nervous system, why we like it and why we use it is because it is the most efficient nervous system or most efficient system in your body. Meaning that when you work on it, it will respond. It is very, very efficient. It is also very fast. All right. It is very fast, meaning that when we change something, things change fast in the central nervous system. Things improve quickly in the central nervous system, right? The central nervous system is also the most stable, meaning that it is very consistent. The way that it acts is very predictable because the central nervous system is responsible for you staying alive. So the brain wants to keep itself healthy. It wants to use metabolic resources. It wants to be used and it wants to stay stable because it likes predictability. And the cool part is that the central nervous system is the most changeable. All right, so I'm going to flip this slide here. This is the most changeable, meaning that we can use the power of neuroplasticity to change the way that your central nervous system functions. So you have a lot of nerves in your central nervous system. You have a ton of neural networks, into the 10 to the third, 10 to the fourth power, meaning trillion to quadrillion neural networks, your entire body is connected. So when we have something that gets damaged, when we have an area of our body that gets affected by a neurologic condition, then we can change it. We can actually train the brain, your nervous system, to access and choose other alternative neurologic pathways to work around your symptoms, to counteract your symptoms, and also to reduce the severity, duration, and frequency of those symptoms, which is awesome. All right. So neuroplasticity basically is building new roads. All right. So when we look at neuroplasticity, you guys have probably heard it in the spheres that you're in. It's not a new concept. I didn't come up with it. Neither did anybody who's talking about it right now. It is 100 years old. They first started using neuroplasticity in behavioral medicine. And so they're actually transferred that, and people just started using it in the physical therapy and the fitness realm only really within the last 10 years-ish. So if you look at this diagram, this is a really good diagram for neuroplasticity. You see this super busy highway on the right, okay? 3 lanes, 4 lanes, it's flying. It's high speed, it's very thick, it's very dense, it's very developed. When we end up getting a neurologic disruptive condition, then that highway gets blown up. It goes under massive construction. There's a lot of damage that happens there. So all of those cars are neurologic electrical signals. So those signals have to go somewhere else. And highway engineers have built along highways, they built frontage roads or access roads. They do this for this very reason, that if the major highway is out or some emergency vehicle needs to get there, or they need to reroute traffic, they have smaller frontage roads. Well, you have those in your brain too. And so when MS blows up your highway, your brain starts to be like, wait a sec, I have frontage roads. We can use those. They go to the same destination, they're just a little bit smaller. So the brain starts sending signals down those frontage roads. As those frontage roads get used more, the brain's like, ooh, I like this. We're getting good results here. We're getting good effectiveness here. Let's start increasing the width and the depth of those frontage roads so we can get more traffic going down those frontage roads. As those roads get more developed, they get wider. As they get wider, they get better paid. As they get better paid, they get more efficient. So more traffic goes down those frontage roads, and then the speed increases, which means that a lot of times with MS, even though you're not using the nice, huge, big highway from your head to your foot or your brain to your foot, for example, you will use these frontage roads. And you may use 2 or 3 of them as alternative pathways to connect the signal from your brain to your foot, which is how we actually counteract your symptoms. All right? So the more that we use them, the more that it develops, and eventually that frontage road becomes the preferred pathway for those neurologic symptoms. Okay? All right. So let's go back. That I put this slide up on the, or this picture up on the second slide. So this is a global GPS, global positioning system. And this is how your nervous system works as well. In order for your brain to know what your body is doing, how it's doing it, and what we're going to do next, it's got to have these satellite systems in order to triangulate and create a good signal. All right. So your neural GPS, those satellites, is your visual system, your vestibular system, and your movement system. So visual system are your eyes, but it's not just your eyesight. It's the muscular activation in your eyes that allow you to see and focus and track. It's also your brain's ability in the visual centers of your brain to be able to understand and interpret what you're seeing. Your vestibular system are your balance centers. All right, they're your balance centers. So in your balance centers, that is where that's what's going to hold you upright. Your vestibular system basically asks the question of which way is up, which way are we going? And so if you have balance issues because of your chronic condition, your neurologic condition, whatever it might be, you have a vestibular problem. If you have balance issues, if you have core stability issues, you have a visual problem. Now, when we look at the movement system, we talk about can you breathe and can you move? Breathing is movement. And a lot of times when we breathe, it's very involuntary. We breathe like between 20 and 25,000 breaths a day. We don't think about how we're breathing the entire day. But we need to. We don't need to think about every breath, but we do need to incorporate focused, intentional, concentrated breath work in order to improve the way that you breathe and improve the muscles of inspiration, and also to reestablish good breathing mechanics, because oftentimes what happens with the neurologic condition is there's such a fear response and there's such a threat response from the neurologic disruption in your central nervous system that your body starts to dysregulate how it breathes. Meaning that most people end up becoming chest breathers or neck breathers or jaw breathers instead of belly and deep core breathers. Now, your breathing centers and your breathing systems are directly tied to your intrinsic kinetic chain. That intrinsic kinetic chain is your balance center. So neurologically, it sits in your cerebellum. It runs down your spinal cord. But the muscles that are your quote unquote core muscles include the intrinsic kinetic chain. That includes your jaw, your throat, your diaphragm, your psoas, your spinal erectors, your pelvic floor, your abdominals. So when people talk about core stability, the number one way to improve core strength and core stability is working on your breath. And then lastly, can you move? And it's not so much do my muscles work. It's actually do your joints function. Do your joint receptors, the signals that are in between all your joints, can they communicate with your brain well to tell your brain what is going on in that joint to see if we need to increase or decrease speed? Go to the left, go to the right, rotate this way, rotate this way. Your joint receptors are some of the most highly adapted sensors in your entire body. And if your joint receptors are not functioning well, you will not move well. All right. So you need to have a good, clear signal coming from your visual satellite, your vestibular satellite, and your movement satellite. All right. So now we put this all together. Neurology 101. So we want to do something, right? Let's say we want to go climb a flight of stairs. First of all, your brain looks at those stairs and your visual symptoms. It's taking in all this sensory input, being like, how many stairs are there? How high is it? How high is each step? Is my environment safe around me to go up these stairs? It's basically checking around to say, is this safe outside of my body? It's also asking inside, am I safe inside my body? Can I balance on one leg as I step up to that next step? Can I stabilize my spine on these handrails so that I don't tumble back down the stairs, or I don't fall up the stairs, or I fall right to left as I'm going up the stairs? So it asks the question, is it safe? Once the brain says, is it safe, from that sensory input, so if you look at the diagram on the right, the sensory input from the eyes, the ears, the breath, the touch, the feel, all that, all of your external senses and your internal senses saying, can we do this? Then it gets sent to the brain where that process is integrated. If the signals are coming in, the brain takes it in, it processes that information, then it's like, ask the question of like, okay, it's safe to go up the stairs. How are we going to do this? What muscles are we going to use? What joints do we need to stabilize? What does my breath need to be doing? What does my body position need to be doing? All that kind of stuff. So it creates in your brain an integrated plan of how that we are going to go from stair 1 to stair 10. Then from there, the signal travels down your brain through your through your spinal cord, out your peripheral nerves, to your joint receptors, to your muscles, and that creates the motor plan, which creates motor output, that is what most fitness and therapy programs focus on, is only the motor output. So when you hear corrective exercise, when you hear physical therapy exercise, when you hear things like that, they're only working on improving that one joint action. But the thing is that your body is an integrated system. So even if you have foot drop and you work on improving ankle mobility and ankle flexibility and ankle strength and ankle range of motion, which we do in the MS gym a lot of, if your brain doesn't know how to use that better functioning foot because it's been a dysfunctional foot and ankle for 10 years, the minute that you get up and you go try to start use that foot while you're walking, your brain may not know how to do that. So we've got to create an integrated action plan that allows your sensory input, your integration, and also your motor output to work in tandem and work as a team, so that when you stand up on that foot and try to use it while you're walking, your brain knows how to use the new mechanics in that foot drop foot that you've been working on. Because I have seen throughout 20 plus years, so many people go to therapy or go to chiropractic and they have an amazing therapy session or an amazing chiropractic adjustment. And then like on the way to their car, their whole body falls apart again, because their brain doesn't know how to actually use the motor pattern and to use the motor output pattern that the therapist, the chiropractor, or the fitness professional just worked an entire hour on to like input and upload into their brain. So you need to be working in an exercise program that helps your body integrate both isolated muscle strengthening, compound exercise or muscle strengthening, integrated movement patterns, kinetic chain activation, and then also sensory input integration, meaning can your body take in information or sense information and know what to do with it? The main problem with neurologic conditions is your body doesn't know what to do with the information that's coming in because the signals are so disrupted. And that's what leads to symptoms like spasticity and muscle weakness and pain as protective mechanisms so that you don't fall down, break your hip, break your neck, and die. That is literally the function of your central nervous system. Okay, good. So in order to build a neurocentric, meaning nervous system centered movement program, these are the things that we need. We need sensory exercises where we work on improving the visual system, the vestibular system, and the sensory input from breathing well, called interoception. We need integration exercises where we're working on joint range of motion, motor control, and we want it with the whole point is to reduce the threat in your body. We want to reduce the threat of exercise. We want to make exercise enjoyable and beneficial to your brain, not something that it thinks is going to hurt it. And the last thing we want is motor control. So that picture right there is of the 5 kinetic chains, 5 of them. And each of those kinetic chains has about, I would say, 15 to 20 different muscles attached to them. And how they work and all that, I would say probably 20 to 30. So you take 5 of those, 20 to 30 different muscles in the 5, that's like 150 different muscles that need to know how to work if you're going to be able to walk well. So with the motor part of any neurocentric movement program, you've got to work on isolated corrective exercise. You've got to work on kinetic chain function or kinetic chain integration. And then you've also got to work on improving motor patterns. Because you can sit on a machine and you can get stronger, or you can use some bands or do whatever you want to get muscles stronger. But like I just said, if your brain doesn't know how to integrate all of these stronger muscles in your body and have them work together as a team, your kinetic chain function and your motor programs will never improve. It's not so simple that you just plug and play and your brain just figures it out. Your brain's been protecting you and your brain's been watching over you for however long that you've actually had a neurologic condition. Movement is threatening. Symptoms are protective. And in order to flip the switch to exercise is healing and movement is performance-based, not protective-based, we've got to teach your brain how to use all of its parts in a well-oiled, well-orchestrated machine, which is your human movement system. All right? So all this is required. Now, I'm going to switch to some videos here. So what are we doing with this? How do we do this, Trev? Right? It's all good in theory, but how do we do it? So I'm going to go through 3 exercises with foot drop. And these exercises are going to work on the sensory, the integration, and then also, well, actually the sensory, and then the motor, and then the integration piece. I tried to put these on the slides, but the presentation was too big. So now I'm going to have to cycle through these. Okay. So the first exercise that we're going to be working on to combat foot drop are what are called smooth pursuits. Smooth pursuits is going to increase and improve your brain's ability to track items in space. Why does this work? Well, as we hold an object and we actually track that with our eyes, like I'm watching my thumb move right now, it's going to improve your midbrain activation, which is directly tied to your balance, which is directly tied to the peripheral nerves that feed the reflexive and the sensory sensors in your feet. All right, so let's take a look at this. Nope. Boop. There we go. All right, so here's smooth pursuits. So if I go back, wait. Okay, so here we go. All right, so here's smooth pursuit. So I am holding a pen in front of my face. So you can see that. I'm looking at a letter on my pen. Now, how we're going to do this is you're going to pick a letter on the pen. You're going to keep your head straight, and you are going to track that pen right to left, and then you're going to track it up and down. So let's take a look at this. So we're watching the pen go to the right, watching the pen go to the left, watching the pen go to the right, watching the pen go to the left. So I'm keeping focused on that letter. I only move as fast as I can to keep tracking on that letter. If it becomes blurry, if it becomes fuzzy, then I'm moving too fast. So moving right to left actually works on the lateral stability in your midbrain. So it helps you balance from right to left, right to left. Now we're going to flip the pen over and we're going to go up and down, up and down. So same thing, we keep looking at that pen, we look at the letters, we follow it up and down, we focus on those letters, and we're having deep midbrain activation as we do this. Now, when we work on up and down, we're working on improving flexion and extension in your body. So flexion is going forward, like leaning forward. Extension is coming back. So if you work on side-to-side smooth pursuits and side-to-side balance, and then you work on up and down balance or forward and back balance, you are improving your balance maps. You are improving your midbrain activation, which is why these drills are so powerful, okay? So after we activate our smooth pursuits or our visual system, okay, and our balance centers, now we can actually start to work on foot stuff, okay? So this is a drill called up and over. So you're going to put your foot on the floor with your heel on the ground, and all you're going to do is you're going to concentrate on lifting that foot up and over on one side of that little green resistance band, up and over on the other side of that green resistance band. Now, I know a lot of you have foot drop issues. I know a lot of you have problems dorsiflexing. It doesn't even matter if you just barely lift it up and slide it across the floor like a hardwood floor in a pair of socks. The fact that you're lifting your foot up like this and then sliding it to inversion, sliding it to eversion is going to help improve those ankle mobility maps, okay? So what we're going to do here, like I said, put your heel on the ground, sit up nice and tall, and then you're going to focus on lifting that foot up into as much dorsiflexion as you can or as available in your brain, and moving that foot in and moving that foot out. And I like this drill because you move it up and over to the inside and you stop. Then you move it up and over to the outside and we'll stop. Okay? So you go up and over, and that's going to work dorsiflexion. It's going to work dorsiflexion eccentric control, which is motor control. It's going to work inversion with your ankle, and it's going to work eversion with your ankle. Okay? All right. And then the last thing that we're going to do here is not a split squat. Okay? We're going to be doing pause walking. Okay? So once we get our balance centers kicking in with those visual drills, and then we get our ankle mobilizers kicking in and our ankle joint receptors kicking in, now we can actually start using this. So this drill is called pause walking. So you're gonna see me do it with a walker, with poles, and then unassisted. What I want you to watch is how slowly I move through the movement, okay? You want to slow down your gait pattern, so you want to make your body as absolute balanced as possible so that your brain can go through that gait pattern in a nice, slow way, and it has enough time to make the necessary adjustments based on sensory input, integration input, and motor output so that you maintain your balance. If you do this too fast, it will not be as effective. You need to go very, very slow. All right, so let's check this out. So I'm rolling that walker forward and leaning right to where I'm about to take a step. I bring my foot up nice and slow and come down. So I'm basically working on the entire movement of that walking in slow motion so that my brain has to find balance as my leg swings through the gait swing. I have to find core stability. I have to find spinal strength. And then here's how we do it with walking poles. So you're actually bringing one foot forward and the other side arm forward, one foot forward and the opposite arm forward, or the other side arm forward. So as you can see, it takes a lot of time. My brain has time to balance on that plant leg and get my glute to kick in and my adductor to kick in and my opposite side quadratus lumborum to kick in. And then we're moving and doing this unassisted. So same thing here, like I just told you before, I'm using all of my kinetic chains when I'm doing this exercise. I'm using the lateral kinetic chain, the intrinsic kinetic chain, the posterior chain, the anterior chain, the deep longitudinal. We're using all of it. So my body has to figure out how to do this in slow motion, and it gives my brain time to catch up and counteract momentum and gravity and my own balance issues. And it allows my brain to work very slowly and to be able to process, because you are learning a new language. So when you're learning a second language, notice how slow you have to speak, because you are taking your native language, you're having to put the secondary language on it, and you're having to translate it and transcribe it so that it comes out of your mouth in a way that is understandable. The exact same thing happens here as we're moving. So we get the visual system kicking in and a little bit of vestibular. We get our foot and ankle kicking in, which unlocks that kinetic chain. Then we put it all together and we practice using the kinetic chain as we walk in a very slow, controlled, and doable format, so that your brain has time to jump in. And yeah, Sherry, or someone said, this is hard for those of us who are impatient. Yes, it is very hard to go slow. I am a fast mover as well, but if I don't do this well, my body will fall apart. All right. Okay, so that's foot drop. So we went through smooth pursuits, up and overs, and pause walking. Okay, so that's how we put things together. So we used a sensory. We used a sensory exercise. We used a corrective exercise. So that's a motor output. And then we used an integration exercise, which then goes into a motor output exercise. So just using those three examples, we use all of the systems of your brain. We use all three of those global positioning satellites in your brain. All right. So let's talk about balance. So balance comes from your cerebellum. That cerebellum sits on here's your big old cerebrum. It sits on the bottom there. It's called little brain. That is where your balance centers are. It's connected into your brainstem. It's connected into your spinal cord, which goes to your peripheral nerves, which goes to your joint receptors. So in order to start kicking in the balance centers, we need to target the balance centers in the brain, which is your cerebellum, okay? After that, we will actually work on a kind of a full body integration exercise for your vestibular system that works your ankle receptors, your hip receptors, your spinal receptors, and your neck receptors. These are called board rocks. And then we're going to end with an integrated exercise called staggered squats, okay? So here's VOR. So VOR is called vestibulo-ocular reflex, okay? So we are going to connect your vestibular system and your ocular system, which is your visual system, by picking a point on that pen, looking at that pen. Your eyes are fixed on the letter, and then you're going to turn your head to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, as you keep looking at that letter. By doing this, you are going to activate a major cerebellar and also cerebral reflex called your vestibulo-ocular reflex, which is deeply, deeply, deeply connected to your balance. Okay, so this is how we do. So I'm looking at, and notice my head is moving pretty quick. Okay, and I'm going side to side. When you move quick like that and you maintain focus on that pen, it trains your brain and it activates your brain to keep your balance as your head is turning quite quickly. Now, a caveat with that is if you get dizzy and if you feel like you just need to find your own pace, okay? You need to move at a pace that is correct for you, that is appropriate for you. If you move too fast, it could cause a neurologic threat response. So I would recommend starting real slow and just moving side to side at a pretty slow pace, maybe pausing in between to allow your neck muscles, your neck joints, your eyes, your vestibular system to actually know what the heck is going on. And then as you get better, you can start increasing your speed. So you start off doing side to side here, right? So here's the side to side VOR. As you do that, that again works on the lateral stabilization or the lateral stabilizers in your body to prevent you from falling side to side. Then we flip the pen over and we're just going chin up, chin down, chin up, chin down, chin up, chin down as we keep looking at that letter. Again, when we move our head up and down like that, and we maintain focus on that letter, that is going to improve our flexion and extension capabilities in our body, which improves our ability to not fall forward, to not fall back, to not fall to the right, to not fall to the left, but to maintain plumb as we are walking. So focusing on that letter as you track during smooth pursuits and as you do drills, while you look at the letter, your brain is using your frontal lobe saying that is an S or that is an H or that is an R. It knows the letter. It's focusing on the letter. You keep seeing the letter. So you're actually integrating frontal lobe, which will improve your cognitive function as well. So it's not just sitting here and wiggling your head around. You need to stay focused on that letter. If that letter on your pen becomes blurry, you are moving too fast and there's too much of a threat response. So that is how you'll gauge how well you're doing on these drills. Okay? All right. So we can see we go up and down, we go right to left. We're feeling pretty good. So after we activate those balance centers in our brain, then we go to board rocks. Okay? This is a crowd favorite in the MS gym. People like this. So the entire goal of this is to work on shifting your body weight side to side in a very small, controlled, and tight movement. You literally want to imagine that you're in a tube with a little bit of space on the side, and you're just touching one side of the tube, other side of the tube, one side of the tube, other side of the tube. And you'll see during this video, you'll see arrows come up. You want to focus, so look at my camera, you want to focus right here on your core. These are what are stopping your momentum when you're going side to side. The abs and the spine are what are stopping you when you're actually moving front to back. So we'll show that to you right now. So this first one is a side to side movement. This is going to help your body start and stop movement and also control momentum and control gravity and activate your visual center. So you can see those green arrows pointing to your obliques and your spine. Your deep core stabilizers are what you are going to be using as you're rocking side to side. You need to keep your body straight and you need to move just from your ankle joints. If you try to move too much, you're not going to be able to keep your balance. So it's a very tight and small movement. Now this one, we switch to front and back, and this is an even smaller movement because you don't want to get too much forward and backwards movement. But as you go backwards, you're going to use your abdominals to control the movement. As you tip forward, you're going to use your spinal erectors or your spinal stabilizers to control the movement. So you'll see the arrows pop in here. As you go back, okay, as you go back, so I'm leaning backwards, I'm using my abs to stop me from continuing to go backwards. All right. As I go forward, I'm using my spinal erectors and my glutes to stop me from going further forward and falling on my face. So by shifting that weight back or side to side and keeping your core stabilizers nice and tight, this allows your body to actually use and do what it's supposed to do, which is control movement, control gravity, and allow you to walk without fear and with more confidence, because your body knows how to, like, if you trip and step off a curb and you start going to the right, your body knows how to stop it and pull itself back to center, right? If your body starts falling forward, your body will know how to stop it and then pull yourself back up into straight so you can actually maintain your walking balance and not use as much energy trying not to fall down, okay? So those are board rocks. Everybody loves board rocks, baby. It's good. So once we have the VOR, the cerebellar kicking in, then we have our spine and our receptors and our hips and our ankles kicking in. We now put this together, okay? We now put this together. So that's not the right one. Whoop. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to put this together in an integrated strength exercise. This is going to be called a staggered squat. I like doing stagger squats because, or more than bilateral squats, meaning your feet are parallel. I like doing stagger squats where one foot is forward and one foot is back, because that mimics walking. And we want to train specifically. and we want to train you for walking specifically. We do want to train you to be able to plant your feet and stand up, but most of the time, if you want to get better at walking and you want to get better at walking balance, then you need to get better at getting stronger in certain neurological formats or certain positional formats that simulate walking, all right? So what we're going to do here is get set up on a wheelie walker. I'll show you how to do this with a wheelie walker, with a chair, and then also with a band, and we're going to use that thing as a mobile balance station. So we are going to be holding on to that, locking ourselves down, dropping our hips back, and then using our hips to drive ourselves upward, okay? So you can see I drop my hips back, and then I drive my hips forward and stand up. Drive my hips back, drive my hips forward to stand up. Notice as I drop down, pause, my spine and my head are totally straight. There's a straight line going from my tailbone all the way to the base of my skull. Okay, if you bend forward or you round your shoulders, you're going to lose deep core activation and you will lose strength in your hips. So we want to drop down with a nice straight spine, knees bend at the same speed and at the same angle, and then we drive our hips forward and we stand up. So if you are working out with an assistive device like a wheelie walker, you're going to use this as a mobile balance station, all right? So this is me at the side. I have a chair to my side, and I'm preventing myself from falling to the inside. So that hand on that chair, I have it on there very lightly. It's preventing me from falling to that side of that back leg, because most people will fall to that side, okay? Because that front leg is nice and grounded. That back leg has a little bit less weight on it. So most people, when they take a step, they usually fall to the side of the swinging leg. And so I'm training your brain and your body to get stronger on this right side over here to work on your reflexive stability so that when you walk, you don't fall over. So this is a great exercise to do to work on lateral core strength and lateral balance, okay? It's the exact same form, nothing changes. And then when you get good at that and you can do that without a walker or without a chair, then you can start to add bands. If you add resistance bands when you are still highly unstable, you are going to strengthen your dysfunctions. You don't want to do that. So once you are stable and once you feel really good with body weight staggered squats, you move from a wheelie walker or a rollator to a chair to I feel really good doing this body weight. Then you can add resistance because it adds another layer of skill to be able to lock your lats in and maintain tension on that band and not fall over. So it's the same form here. That band's under my leg. I'm dropping my hips back. I'm getting a pause, and then I'm pushing forward. The green, like you can see on this green arrow here, where we're at, that green arrow, I'm driving with my hips, okay? Driving with my hips. Now, as I come in, you're going to see this yellow arrow. I'm also having to maintain tension in my lats to keep that band from going forward and backwards. So when I work on driving from my hips and keeping my lats engaged, that is going to fire up the posterior kinetic chain, which is going to allow your entire body to integrate, your balance centers to integrate, so that the VOR work, the boardwalk work, and now the staggered squat work are all going to integrate to improve your walking balance. All right? Good. So that's how we build a program. So here's the secret sauce for the MS Gym. So the first half of the secret is the left side of the slide here, movement skill training. We've already talked about this. We need sensory input training. We need integration patterning. We need motor planning. We need motor control. We need motor output. That is what is built into our MS Gym programs. So we call them our core programs. That doesn't mean that they're all abs, all right? It's core curriculum. It's all integrated movement patterns. It's all sensory integration. It's motor. It's cerebral integration, and it's motor output. It is built into the program. So your main workout session in the MS Gym is going to use all of those three satellites from your global positioning system. Now, the second half of the MS Gym secret sauce is what is called movement snacking. So these are tiny little movement drills that are very short, like 2 to 5 minutes long, very short sessions. This is the secret that has changed the lives of my MS Gymmers, okay? So they're micro brain drills that are performed multiple times a day that improve brain attention, central nervous system activation, and motor skill acquisition. So we do this through homework. All right. So when you go to class, you're watching me on videos leading you through the core curriculum. Then outside of your classwork, which is your main workout session in a day, which is that 25 to 35 minutes, you are doing little 2-minute to 5-minute little bouts of movement skill practice throughout the day that are going to improve your sensory input, your integration, and your motor output in an isolated drill format that could, I guess, be seen as corrective exercise. But I like to call them brain activation segments or brain activation snacks. And these are the game changers in the MS Gym. And you will find these built into your program and also into the membership in a separate section. And then also in our symptom solutions program. This gives you the movement snacking that you can add to any other fitness or therapy program that you're doing to make things more neurocentric and more brain-based. So what does that look like? Like, how do we do that? Okay. So we do that by snacking on, like, this is an example. There's many ways to do it, but this is an example. So we can snack on receptors. Okay. I say when, morning and pre-exercise. How long? 30 to 120 seconds. So 30 seconds to 2 minutes. How often? 1 to 3 times a day. So if you have foot drop, you should be working on mobilizing your ankle at least 1 time a day, maybe a couple times a day. But you basically just need to pick one drill, do it for 30 seconds to a couple minutes, and you're good. Your brain is activated, it's thinking about your ankles, and your function will improve. So maybe you do that first thing in the morning. Then breathing. Breathing can be done all day long. Breath work, even 5 slow breaths where you breathe in for 4 seconds and breathe out for 8 seconds. 5 breaths, maybe 2, maybe at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, will stimulate your vagus nerve, which means it will decrease your sympathetic nervous system, increase your parasympathetic nervous system, and counteract your symptoms. A lot of my gymmers find relief from spasticity and from balance issues working on breathing throughout their day. And literally 5 breaths, you think 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. That's 12 seconds. 5 breaths, that's 60 seconds. That's 1 minute. 1 minute. So imagine doing 3 minutes of breathing a day, and that decreases your spasticity. That's how powerful this stuff is. Excuse me. And then lastly, we got visual or vestibular drills. So any of the drills that we do in our MS Gym programming are in separate sections of your membership or in symptom solutions. If you work on smooth pursuits, you're only going to do between like 30 seconds to maybe like 30 seconds, like 1 time a day. You do maybe between 30 and 50 reps. I didn't mean to put 120 seconds there. You do not want to do visual drills for 2 minutes straight. You will get fried. But what I can say is that maybe you do 3 sets of 20 reps, just 1, 2, 3, 4. You do 20 of those and then you rest for a little bit. And then you go again, do 20 more, rest for a minute bit. And then maybe you go up and down and then you're done. So by working on your visual or your vestibular system for 1 to 2 minutes a day over 40 days, people in research settings saw between a 10 and 15% increase in their balance. And they only did this for like 4 weeks. Imagine if you could get your balance 10% better, or 15% better, or 30% better, what that would mean for your life. So this is truly like the secret sauce to making all of the other core programs and the workout sessions more effective. Because as you improve the way that your joint receptors work, your breathing mechanics work, and your visual and vestibular system work, those 4 powerhouses in your body are what are going to improve your function for the rest of your body. Breathing helps blood flow, cardiopulmonary, and organ function. Joint receptors help with balance, muscle control, bone density. Visual and vestibular help with balance, interoception, organ function, breath rate, how you speak, how you think. It helps on bladder control. It helps on bladder control. It helps on spasticity in your hands. It helps out on a ton of stuff. So these little bit of brain drills, these tiny little brain drills practiced multiple times a day for 1 to 2 minutes max in each session are what are the game changers for my MS gymmers. And they can be for you too, which is awesome. Okay. So that's the sauce, man. So if you go back, we got we got movement skill training, we got all of your core stuff, and then we got your movement snacking stuff. And when you create that kind of programming, you will hit all of the different parts of your neural GPS. You will improve your brain function. You will improve your body function. You will improve your cognitive function. You will improve your organ function. You will improve your sexual function, your bladder function, your eyesight function, your speaking ability, your relationships, your attitude, because when your brain is activated, everything else in your body works better. And the things that activate your brain are movement, gas exchange, meaning breathing, and good solid nutrition and hydration. The things that support that activation is stress reduction and sleep, which is what we build in the MS Gym, which is a complete healing lifestyle. So real quick, I know we're at about 50 minutes here. It's been good. We had a lot to cover. There's a couple different testimonials here. And I just want to point out, so this is Melissa. She's from Canada. She came to the MS Gym and she was pretty frustrated. I remember meeting her in person at a summit and she was just in tears. And she's like, everything just keeps getting worse. I just keep having these nagging symptoms. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to be a good mom. And now she's like unassisted. She's not using any devices. Her mobility's improved. She has a ton more energy. And because she's had a ton more energy and she feels like she is a strong, capable, active mom, she decided to have a second baby. And she is a beautiful little girl that gets to be a sister to her awesome older son. And she gets to be a proud, happy, vibrant, active mom. She shot videos of her shooting soccer balls and being on a bike. And I'm telling you, like 6 years ago, or yeah, I think it was 6 years ago, 2018, 5 years ago, she was using assistive devices. She was in tears talking to me, being like, I don't know what else to do. And now she's rocking it, using the techniques that we've used in here. Matthew is another one who's been a massive, massive success story. The guy came to us and he was super defeated. Guys, males get MS, I feel like, a lot harder, and it comes across very fast. So when he came to us, his energy was tanked, his mobility was declining, he had no strength, he couldn't even do like push-ups, he couldn't work out, he felt scared because he has 3 older girls and he wanted to be able to be a part of their life, a part of their weddings, a part of being a grandparent and all that kind of stuff. So you can see here, he could only do 10 minutes on his bike and maybe 3 push-ups. And at the time when he submitted this testimonial, he was doing 37 minutes on a bike, walking for 20 minutes on a treadmill, doing 50 push-ups a day, and being able to hold a plank for almost 3 minutes at a time. So he has 4 daughters. He has 4 daughters, and he's now walked 3 out of the 4 down the aisle. So he's participated in the daddy-daughter dances. And me being a dad of 3 girls, I couldn't even imagine not being able to walk my little girls down the aisle and being a participant and participating with them at the daddy-daughter dance as I send them into the next chapter of their life. So this is what we do here. This is why we do what we do. And we help you do the same. So the neuroprotective secret is really about setting a goal, a SMART goal, specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, relevant, and timely. Okay, so you need to set a goal that is right for you, relevant for you, and can be completed and accomplished. If you're stuck in a wheelchair right now and you want to go hike a mountain, a timeline of 6 months isn't realistic. It could happen, but you're setting yourself up for failure. So we will help you set realistic expectations and start to look for the right small wins and victories. You also want to train specifically for your goals. If you want to walk better, you need to train in a way that is going to improve your walking. You don't want to train in a way that's just going to get your legs stronger for no reason, get your upper body stronger for no reason, just to say that you're stronger and you're using a heavier resistance band. Who cares? If your body can't use that strength, there's no point. You're all show and no go. The third part of the neuroprotective secret is we want to use exercises that stimulate neuroplasticity. That also includes mindset exercises. That also includes learning about neuroplasticity. Because every single time that you learn something and apply it, that's a neuroplastic opportunity. And as you apply those opportunities, you will get better at neuroplasticity. Your brain will. The fourth part of it is train the central nervous system. train your sensory, train your integration, train your motor output. It's not just about moving better. It's can you move better and use that movement to move better. It's not just about moving one body part better at a time. It's about moving your whole body better through your life. And the last part is you want to snack on symptom-specific drills to practice moving better. This is all about practice. It's just like school. The stuff that you do with me, whether it's free stuff or it's paid stuff, those are all that's all the curriculum. But these symptom-specific snacks are your homework. They're what allow you to become fluent in the second movement language, which is the movement of the MS gym. It's the language of the MS gym. Because the way that you used to move before MS or before your neurologic stuff is not the way that you're going to move now, because you don't have the same systems or same roads to use. You've got to use new roads. You've got to use new words. You've got to use new sequences. You are learning a second language, and that's what this is all about. All right? So with this and attached to this presentation, like, we have a special membership offer for you, okay? And honestly, being a member of the MS Gym and or just even using the organized structure of the MS Gym, the organized programs of the MS Gym, gives you a movement plan. So whether you're in the membership, whether you use one of our one-time programs, or whether you're in the Symptom Solutions program, which I've talked about, you have a movement plan. And I've thought through these things and I've organized them in a specific way for specific people with specific symptoms. So the programming that we have in the MS Gym is the best way that I can help you. All the free stuff is huge and it's very useful, but it's all over the place because that's just the way social media is, right? But inside any of the membership stuff or paid for product stuff, you get movement plans. I can help you. There's piles of evidence backing up every single program that you do, because that has led to success in our membership. And so we want to give you guys the opportunity to have a gigantic discount. It's a special offer, and it's one of the best discounts that we've ever given for our membership programming. So please check your inbox. Please look at your inbox. Please look at the emails that will be sent to you, because this is going to give you all the information that you need to make the right decision for you. And honestly, like, you've got to be in the right place to say yes. I don't just want you to say yes because I want you to say yes. I want you to say yes to taking your healing and your movement practice a step forward because you're ready and you want to. But if you're cool still using Instagram and YouTube and everything to work on our free exercises, that's amazing. That's why I put it out there. That's why we have well over 1,000 pieces of content out on the social interwebs, because I have an ethical and professional responsibility to serve you guys at the highest level, and giving you free stuff is the way to do that. Okay, so thank you guys for being here. I love you. I don't know if Karen has been answering a bunch of questions, but I might be able to cycle through some of these and answer them. So for those of you that got to go. All right. For people that want to stay for a little Q&A for like 10, 15 minutes, then do your thing. We will send you out the recording. You will get the replay of this, so you will get all the answers that you need. So Karen, how have you been doing on answering questions?
Pretty much caught up. One question I wasn't going to touch, somebody asked if it would be suitable to do the board rocks on a rocker board, and my feelings about rocker boards would totally get in the way. So
yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend that. No. The only reason why is you're not going to go through your life walking on a rocker board. All right. There's a time and a place to use rocker board mechanisms and like to train that, which is fine. But you want to be able to train your body to feel the ground and shift your weight on the ground and feel gravity and feel the ground reaction forces, so that your brain learns how to counteract those. Adding things like Bosu balls or rocker boards or balance boards or something like that takes away from that specificity. Like I said, those aren't bad exercises, but for the sake of improving true neurologic function, you need to be grounded on the ground and be able to interact with the ground if you're going to be a human being walking on the ground. So that's that. Any other questions that you've seen, Karen, come in that you think that I can answer that a lot of people have asked?
This is a big question, but we did have some interest in talking about how this would help pain. My comment was that is such a huge subject because, from the brainstem perspective, it's going to help pain from strengthening joint movement, with balance and muscles is going to help pain. But yeah, you could probably address this better than I could.
Yeah. So pain is a learned response, and pain is also it's a learned skill, and it's a protective skill. And so your body will create pain responses based on the fact that either your tissues cannot tolerate certain loads, or your joints cannot move into certain ranges of motion, or your visual system and vestibular system cannot accommodate the loads that are being put on it. So pain comes from your brain's ability, like your brain will make you, or will put you in pain to slow you down. So for me, for instance, like because of my Lyme disease, I have a lot of stuff going on in my spine, and I have for multiple years. I have to train a lot of ranges of motion, and I have to train into multiple joint angles and multiple planes of motion so that my brain has been there before, so that my brain has functioned in those ranges of motion before. Because a lot of times what happens with neurologic conditions is your range of motion and your available strength and balance and endurance becomes limited because your brain's like, dude, we're not safe here. This is not a safe mechanism. So I can't have you go very fast because that could end up catastrophic. It's like if you're driving an old beater, or an old beater car, you're going to go way slower than if you have a high performance Ferrari, because you don't know when a tire is going to fall off, or the transmission is going to fall out, or your headlights are going to go out, or the chassis is going to break, or whatever. So you go slow because just inherently we know the slower we go, the safer it's going to be because there's an unstable environment. So pain is an indicator in your body that your brain does not like going into a certain range of motion or doing a certain activity because it just doesn't feel comfortable doing it. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be like that, but you have to progressively reduce that threat of moving into that range of motion. Like, let's say I can't get where am I at here? Let's say I can't get my arm above this. Well, I need to train my body. Let's say pain starts right here and I'm trying to get to here. I need to go to right where that pain starts, and I need to do some shoulder movement in there. I need to go up and down with my shoulder blade. I need to go around and around with my humerus. I need to go around with my elbow, so that all of this chain in here, this fascial chain, starts to be like, oh, this isn't so threatening. This isn't so bad. So eventually this that is painful is going to go to this. Then I do the same thing. I move around at that higher range of motion. Then we go up. Then I move around at that higher range of motion. Then I go up. That's how you do it. I've had to work my way back into being able to really flex my spine with like holding a weight or a weighted ball or something like that, because my body freaked out about it for so long. I don't have a blown disc. I don't have torn ligaments. I don't have a busted up muscle. It literally was a learned protective skill from my brain that didn't like me going into forward flexion, holding something in front of me or putting something on my back. So I had to progressively reduce that threat by just going 10 degrees and coming back up, 10 degrees. Then maybe I went to like 20, came back up, 20, then to 45, then to whatever. So I had to progressively work into those ranges of motion with a load on me or holding weights so that my brain felt comfortable and it knew that it wasn't going to blow my spine apart. So pain is a progressive reduction of threat. That is the strategy that we implement in the MS gym all the time. It is built into the programs. Anything else, Karen?
Yeah. Herb would like to know if we can print out the slides from this presentation.
Maybe. I'll give that a maybe. We'll see.
What helps with muscle spasms that occur each time I wake up? Thank you, Dolores.
A number of factors. So it could be a hormonal issue. It could be an electrolyte issue. It could be a hydration issue. It could be a sleep issue. It could be a breathing issue. When you wake up spastic, your body is in a protective state. It's in a I don't want to move state. So when you wake up with spasms or you wake up with spasticity, you need to take the time to hydrate your body, get some breathing in, because that'll decrease that fight or flight response and get your parasympathetics kicking in to allow that spasticity to settle. And then you need to just do some very slow and very gentle movements of joints. So if it's in your upper body, you want to move your shoulder, or you want to move your elbow and your wrist. If it's in your neck, you know, side to side, up and down. If it's in your legs, just try to move your feet in and out, or like lift your knees up and down nice and easy, however high you can get them up. So it's basically like you need to hydrate, you need to breathe, and then you need to move, because movement will counteract spasticity, but you also have to tell the brain and convince the brain that it's not going to hurt you. So you're going to have to kind of experiment around and figure out what you're doing before bed, how you're sleeping, and then how you feel when you wake up, and if any of those methods actually help you decrease that spasticity and spasm in the morning.
Okay. Oh, here's the question we always have by new members. Does neuroplasticity also work if there are spots on your spine and not only on your brain? And I will answer yes, exercises helps for functional fatigability.
Yes. Yes, I have lesions on my spinal cord from Lyme disease, and this is what I've used to be able to walk again. Like, I lost my ability to use my feet, my hands, everything else about 4 different times in my life for the past 10 years with certain flare-ups and relapses. And we've had people come back and say that their spinal lesions go away. I have a neurosurgeon friend who works on spines exclusively, and he just told me, like, last time I hung out with him, we were talking about lesion sites, and he's seen lesion sites go away in people with spinal cord injuries, with MS, with Parkinson's, with all that stuff, because they started changing the way that they're doing things, and they started moving again after they've had spinal surgery. So from a neurosurgeon, y'all, not from me, yes, you have neuroplastic changes that can and will happen in your spine. And there's research on it. So if you've heard there's no research on it, I have it. What else, Miss Stenhouse?
Clonus. Can the MS gym help with clonus in your feet and clawing of your toes, or struggling to lift your toes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clonus and like all the tremor type categories of things are very much like, and they're all based on cerebellar communication. There's some other ways that tremors and clonus and stuff can show up, but of what we found and what I've found, like what research has found, is that when you work the cerebellum and you really get that cerebellar function better, the cerebellum's responsible for accuracy, for balance, and for coordination, right? Accuracy, balance, and coordination. With tremors, if it's an intention tremor, that's intention, right? So if you start and you're starting to do this, that's accuracy. That's also coordination. If you're moving and then you're going to try to grab something, and at the end when you're trying to grab something, that's coordination. That's accuracy. That's actually balance of your whole body having to stabilize while your hands going forward to do something. The same thing happens in your feet. So a lot of times what happens, instead of there being this nice, smooth, contractile pattern in the muscles, there becomes this very rigid shaking up and down, because the body doesn't know, or the communication between the brain and that body part is interrupted, and it's very jumbled. Like if you have a bad cell phone signal, that's what's going on in the body. So it doesn't know where to start and stop. So therefore, that's when it jumps up and down as you're moving. So yes, by working on slow, precise, focused, specific drills for cerebellar activation, and also for the joint receptors in those areas, whether it's your ankles, your feet, your fingers, your toes, those all reduce that threat of movement as well. So that's part of that progressive threat reduction concept. So let's take like a couple, we'll do 2 more.
Clonus. Does the MS gym work for cerebral palsy? I've already answered that we have members with CP and a whole long list of other neurological conditions.
Yep.
Breathing exercise best for MS hug?
The breathing exercise, well, without you guys knowing the vernacular and the names of it, but I have an entire MS hug section in Symptom Solutions and also in our programming. So I mean, the best thing you can do, I mean, you can release diaphragmatic spasm just with your fingers, like going along that diaphragm and releasing those tender spots as you find them. You'll also get relief working on intrinsic chain function. So all the breath work stuff that we do, whether it's 360 breathing, box breathing, ladder breathing, where we're leaning to the side, rotational breathing, head rotation breathing, crocodile breathing, which are all these different types of breath work, bringing that air in for 4 seconds, holding it, and then breathing out for 4 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever it is, that's going to help reframe your diaphragm. So if you can learn to breathe well, so reducing the spasticity and then learning to breathe well while your diaphragm is under a stretch, we do that in the MS gym, and that has reduced a lot of people's MS hug. So I guess that's my answer. Reduce spasticity, stretch the diaphragm, work on breathing. Okay, last one.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Oh, actually, this is a really good one. As the last question, many of your exercises are lying down on the floor or mat. I have trouble getting here. Are there alternatives? I think this is an important thing to round up with, because really we have access for everybody.
Yeah.
So if you could go through that would be great.
Yeah, so we do have exercises that are, they're called floor exercises, but they can be done on a firm mattress. They can also be done on a therapy table. So I am a big firm believer, both because of what I've studied and what I've seen through my entire career, that when people sit a lot, which a lot of people with neurologic conditions, we sit all day. I mean, people without neurologic conditions sit all day. You become very tight in your hip flexors. You become very weak in your glutes. You become weak in your abs. You become tight in your spine. In order to get that restoration of function, you've got to get your body flat and straight. You've got to go into what's called extension. Because when you're seated, you're in a very flexed position. You're kind of drawn down, like your hips are bent, your knees are bent, your shoulders are rounded forward. Oftentimes we slump. That's a very flexion-based movement. Well, in order for us to stand upright and walk well with good balance, your body needs to know how to go into extension. So a lot of those exercises in supine are done in supine, on your back, doing things. And it has been a game changer for a lot of people. However, when people are sitting in a chair like this and they're like, I can't get up and down, what we recommend is to find some way that you can actually go into a reclined position. So a recliner chair or some kind of chair that leans back like this. You want to progressively move yourself back till you get down to flat so that you can work on that supine. So the more, if your hips are right here between this hand and this hand, if your hips are used to being at 90, you need to get bigger joint angles in there in order to improve the ability for your body to go into extension, both neurologically and muscularly, and to be able to do that. So if you cannot get on and off the floor, or you say your mattress is too soft or whatever else, then you can do things on a reclined chair or a reclined table, or you can put a therapy table up against the wall, and then you can actually get slant boards. You can buy pads that you can find on Amazon that are wedges that you can put behind your back that allow you to sit back and open that hip joint angle up so that you can start to stretch out that rectus femoris and get more activation out of your abs and more activation out of your spine so that you can stand up better and that you can walk better. So it's a super important concept. It's a super important training concept that's inside the MS gym. But I realize that some people struggle with that, and there's a ton of modifications, and we actually have entire lessons on how to modify certain things inside the programming. So if you have those kind of questions, we've come up with them before. We've written up or we videoed, recorded, filmed, like how to actually modify those and accommodate your needs based on your mobility levels. Cool? All right, good. All right, you guys. Well, we're at about 1:15. I appreciate your time. Sorry about the technical difficulties up front, but it happens. So I hope you guys got a lot out of this. If you want to check things out, like make sure that you look in your inbox. We will be sending out emails. The best thing you can do is just explore things and see what's going to be right for you, what feels right for you. And if you're still using free content on Instagram or YouTube and you have some questions, like put them in the comments or drop them in there. And myself or one of my other team members, will get to you and will answer that. And if it's something they can't do, they're gonna escalate it up to me so that I can help you get those questions answered for you, your brain, your body, and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your patience up front. And I hope this was informative, and I hope to see more of you inside the MS gym. So I will talk to you guys later. Have an awesome day. And thank you, Karen, for being my right-hand gal, as always.
Very welcome.
All right. See you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.